we are moving to the running back position. And I wonder how you're going to do with this one. So let's see what you got. It's a mix. Well, you know what? I'm just going to have you guess, because if I give any hints right now, a lot of my highest owned running backs follow a similar trend. You might already know what that is. And it's not Gus Edwards, I promise, after last year. And it's not a hideous, ugly. Last year completely wiped the plotters for me. What you get, what you win type of arguments. Like, what was I even thinking? If Gus Edwards won, maybe I stumbled into 12 touchdowns, but 500 yards with him and just gross. So I've completely abandoned that. I'll just give you that preface. There's only really one or two kind of ugly running backs in my top exposures. But who do you think's at the top?
Okay, so the free square, just from following you on Twitter, is Jaydon Blue.
Yeah, I knew you were going to get that one. That was pretty obvious.
The
question is, Mo, how invested do you think I am? What percent of Jaydon Blue do you think I have? He is my number one. I will give you that.
Okay, so knowing it's your number one, I got to think it's hovering around 25%. Yeah.
You're going to kill me because you're going to say this
I hope it's not higher than 30.
Well, I'm at 57% Jaydon.
Oh my God.
And that's not over a small amount of drafts. That is a lot. In the best ball big board, way before even the draft, he was my last round pick nearly every time. This isn't counting those though. This is after he's been drafted by the Cowboys. I've taken him in well over half of my drafts. I can't get enough of the guy. 140-ish. His price keeps dropping. I'm going to keep just chasing him down, chasing him up wherever he goes. It's a slam dunk. Who do you compete with? Javonte, Miles Sanders? Give me a break. If you win this bet, and I know it's a big if, but if you win the bet, I tweeted out the other day, I consider him Diet Jahmyr Gibbs. 4.29 speed at his pro day, 4.38 speed with a bad hamstring apparently at the combine. I know you need more than speed to play running back, and he's certainly not Jahmyr Gibbs as a runner or a creator. I understand that. But the guy is a pass catcher, and he's electric. And when you get him in space, he can take it the distance. He had a 77-yard touchdown last year. He had 14 touchdowns on right around 220 total touches last year. Probably not going to be the feature back. I get it, but you're not paying a feature back price. And again, the competition's so pathetic that if he does become the 55% guy there, and I don't think that's a hard job to do. And they took him over Giddens. They took him over Ollie Gordon. They took him over these guys that could have been your more typical big back. So ultimately, I think Jaydon Blue is the biggest smash we've had maybe in, all the years I've drafted right now. To me, it is just a no-brainer. No-brainer. Jaydon Blue, every single draft pretty much. And sometimes he falls 150s now. So I know he's don't tell me you have more than 30%. I have 57%, Mo. And if I'm wrong, it's okay. It's a 12th rounder. There are some valuable guys there. Don't get me wrong. But there's no one in that range that if you're right, you're getting the value that you get with Jaydon Blue is how I look at it.
Yeah, I will not advise anyone to draft 57% Jaydon Blue. I can promise you that. But I get the line of thinking. The line of thinking that gets you to 57%, I do not. But let's just keep rolling here before I get a little.
My next guy's at 35% too, Mo. So I'm being a little irresponsible so far with my running backs. We got.
I think 35 is defensible.
26, 21, and 16 for the top guys. So continue forward though.
Okay, as long as you weren't burned by the likes of Javonte, Estime. I know you had a ton of Estime last year. As long as you weren't too terribly burned by those guys last year, I do think RJ Harvey's in there. That's just an easy Wolf click, second round, legitimate draft capital, entering an intriguing offense. I already know you're bought into the offense with Bo Nix, so I feel like that's another easy one.
So I'm going to give you a 2-for-1 special here. RJ Harvey is my fifth highest exposed running back, 26% in love with him. And you wrote about the Denver Broncos backfield, so you know these stats as well as me, but it's something along the lines of 12 of 17 years, top 2 in total backfield production, top 2 in expected receiving production, most often 1. Even last year, I think they were top 3 in target shares to running backs with absolute garbage playing the position. So yes, I am 100% in on the Broncos backfield, including Harvey at 26.5%. And including J.K. Dobbins at 32%, my third highest running back. Now, I had him at 42%, and that was before he got signed by the Broncos because I was just what if he goes to the Bears? Broncos, honestly, just as good in my opinion because of how Sean Payton has used these committees so many years. I want to say 7 different times he's had 2 top 24 running backs. This year he had 3 top 24 running backs. So I love Dobbins. I love Harvey. Both those guys are in my top 5 exposed. Obviously come down on Dobbins since 32% now compared to the 42% he was before he signed. He was going 180s, 190s back then. Now up in like the 120s. Still a smash in my opinion. Kind of I see a Mark Ingram and Dobbins. I see a Alvin Kamara and Harvey. Plus, I'm sure you've seen the thigh picture. You know me and running backs with those thighs. Come on now. So RJ Harvey. Yes, both of those, you're right on them. Both those guys are Wolf guys. So you got your 3rd, my 5th, and my number 1 out of the way. Can you get number 2 and number 4?
Okay. I don't think that you'd be aggressive enough to take a stand like this in the first 2 rounds. So,
no.
Yeah, I don't think it's anywhere coming out of there.
Can I tell you one, though, that I am trying to not get into, maybe get up to like 17 to 20 in the first 2 rounds. I kind of had just like dream the other night, and it just made sense to me. I want to go all in on Jonathan Taylor. He seems to me kind of like Saquon last year, where it's like, I know he's on the same team, so it's not this complete overhaul. And I know Daniel Jones isn't like the sudden savior, but to me, the Colts just, he just down the stretch last year, like 30 points in 3 straight games, and your playoffs was the most valuable guy if you somehow got there with him. The offensive line's top 10. I do think Daniel Jones does change the offense so that he gets a lot more dink and dunk and makes it nice and steady. That's the guy that I don't understand why he falls to the end of round 2. I think he should be going right at the beginning of round 2. So I am starting to creep him into, like, if I'm at 15 or so, just hammering JT. So yeah, wanted to toss him in there as like the early round guy that's all in there. But you are right. There's nobody that early. These next guys are all kind of towards the middle to late rounds for sure.
Okay, so this might be a little too early, and this one's a little bit of a shot in the dark, but it is just someone that I really like at cost, and it's Kenneth Walker. I know that there's some serious questions about what this offense is going to look like, but I know for a fact that you liked what you saw out of Clint Kubiak in New Orleans last season, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm some knowledgeable rushing scheme guy, but everything I've read from people smarter than myself is that this is going to be favorable for Kenneth Walker in terms of what Clint Kubiak's rushing scheme is bringing to the table in Seattle. And last year we just saw, obviously there's a quarterback change and an offensive scheme changes. Everything's changing, but we saw heavy usage for him as a receiver at times last year. So it's half PPR, but it's still appealing to me. I do think that Kenneth Walker is one of my my favorite picks in that dead zone-y kind of range of the draft.
100%. He's not in my top 5. He's number 8, actually, right on the cusp. And I think the only reason, everything you outlined is great. Love Kubiak. I mean, even before you were probably born, my man, like there was Shanahan and Gary Kubiak, his dad, were like making Mike Anderson like 2,000-yard rushers. These nobodies. And if you had a talent like, Terrell Davis or Arian Foster, you'd get almost 2,000 yards a season. I think Kenneth Walker, should he stay healthy, I know that's the big bugaboo, but he's as talented of a back as we've seen in this offense, certainly from a breakaway perspective. It's all about getting a nice lane for your runner and they one cut and go. He can accelerate with the best of them. So I love Ken Walker. I love the fit. The only reason he's not higher is because I have a ton of RJ Harvey, but lately I've been kind of veering to Kenneth Walker. I try to balance that out a little bit. I'd love him to be in my top 5 by the end of this offseason. So you're right there. My guy. But no, I'll tell you this too. The next 2 in my top 5 are both rookies. So I'll give you that hint. And that's kind of my overlying philosophy is I just love this rookie class and I love the prices. And I think by midseason, so many years, we talked at length last year, Mo, about how rookie receivers, the back-weighted upside, and it's so true and it's still true. I think that we're going to see this year is like, it's going to actually be the rookie running backs that end up by mid-year taking over some of these backfields and just going absolutely bananas for stretch runs. So I know it's a big hint, but who are a couple rookie runners you could see as a Wolf type of guy?
So I can't get myself behind Cam Scatterbo. That's not going to be my guess. Or Cam Scatterbo. That's not going to be my guess.
He's 7. Just as a heads up. So he's there, but not fully there.
Okay. Like, knowing that it's rookies, I was debating on whether or not to just throw this name out there anyways. I feel like you've jumped aboard with me on the Travis Etienne isn't that good. He is just a volume-driven running back
Jump on the
thing.
train, Mo. I've been the conductor of that. I think Etienne blows. I've never been an Etienne
Okay,
guy. Me and you, I know Duck kind of got
yeah,
us that one year.
Duck spoiled it for everyone.
One year he had just a volume-driven, solid campaign. He's not that good. You're on the right path. Let's put it that way.
So Tuten, I was thinking about saying that anyways. It just seems like a pick you would make regardless. So yeah, we don't have to talk about that one a ton. Everyone who's plugged into fantasy football for the last couple of weeks. I mean, yeah, he's a uber athlete. The people in front of him aren't good. Upgraded offensive scheme. I don't know if there's another key talking point you wanna hit on there, but
I think you mentioned Liam Cohen already for the Jags, and we saw what he did for the Bucs backfield last year. Both Bucky and Rachaad White were fantasy beasts throughout the season. I believe they were top 3 in total XFP for that backfield. And just what did he see in Bucky Irving that he loved? Missed tackles forced per attempt. Bhayshul Tuten was like the best in this class at that as well. And then you mix in 4.3 speed. That was the one thing Bucky didn't have, was once he got out there, could he break the long one? No, that's the one thing going against Bucky. I love Bucky Irving. Don't get me wrong. He's my highest exposed running back last year. But Bhayshul Tuten does what Bucky Irving did and then can break the long one. He's not as good of a pure runner and creator as Bucky. I'm not going to say that, but he does break tackles with the best of them. And Liam Cohen is so good at getting his backs involved in space and in the screen game that I think Tuten's just going to be ripping long play after long play. And I don't believe in Travis Etienne. So yes, he's my second highest at 35%. Love Bhayshul Tuten. And number 4 is a last round dart throw. So I don't know if you'll know you'll know who this guy is, but it's a tougher guess. We're talking at the end of the draft. You know, I was Tank Dell a couple of years ago. I was like, I'm clicking this guy no matter what. That's kind of become this guy for me. If he's there, I'm taking him no matter what in every last round.
So I had a guy in mind before you said that, and he does happen to fall in this range. So I'm just going to keep going with him. And I think it's in the similar vein as the Tuten bet. You're kind of just trying to find ways to maybe take advantage of a guy that people don't like as much and think is not as good of a running back. So I'm going to go with Jarquez Hunter here. I don't know if that's the right answer, but just kind of the discourse around Kyron Williams is that he's just not that good. It's just he's a good running back, but he's not a good runner. Is what the idea is. That might not be right, but I do think that just given how you've approached some of these other guys, I feel like he could fit in there.
He's a good toss-out for sure. I do believe in Kyron a little more, and even if I don't love Kyron the player, even though I do, 2 years ago he was another one of my guys and really helped me in best ball. I still think whether I love him or not, Sean McVay loves and trusts him. And so I do like Jarquez Hunter. I think he's going to bring a new spice to that game. And Sean McVay raved about him when they picked him. But you haven't been with RJ long enough, Mo, to know my love for Jerick McKinnon. And so I'd see Brashard Smith enter that roster. And I think he's their next Jerick McKinnon. He's already catching 50-yard bombs down the field from Mahomes on wheel routes, already sprinkling in with the first team quite often. And another guy with that 4.39. That's a common trend here between Blue, Tuten, Brashard Smith, RJ Harvey. Sub 4.4 speed in offenses that have players ahead of them, but not like insane talents to beat out, especially with Blue. Like there's nobody in front of him. So I love just this rookie class in general, but I especially love the speedy guys and the coordinators that took them and how they used to manufacture touchers in space for the backs. Nobody better at that than Andy Reid. So I could see Brashard Smith being a legit weapon. Never mind the fact that his first season as a running back, he rushed for like 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns on 230 carries. Looked phenomenal. So I am a huge Brashard Smith fan. In general, as you can kind of see now as I pulled up my exposed running backs, it's the year of the rookie running back. Blue, Tuten, Smith, Harvey, Scatabo. 4 of my top 7 guys, or top 6 guys even, are those rookies. And then the only non-rookies are Dobbins, who I love. A lot of it was heavy exposure before he got signed. I think it's a beautiful spot, even with the price increase. And Rachaad White is that kind of like Gus Edwards, crusty guy that's sitting there.
He's a good pick. He's a good
at
pick.
the end of drafts. So, or at that like 140 range. So I had to get one of them in there.
No, Rachaad White's a good pick.
Really? I thought you were going to bash me for that one.
No. I think he's a great pick. I mean, like he can do everything on the football field. He's a 3-down back. Like I get it. He's like not that good, but it's a 12th round pick. He's a 3-down back, and like he's still going to be on the field. The 5'7" or whatever he is, Bucky Irving. is not going to play 80% of snaps. Like it's going to be 65-35, 70-30, but he's going to be on the field. Like you might be able to rack up enough catches to get some usable weeks. And then the contingent value, like I know people want to invoke the name Sean Tucker, but I mean, we haven't seen anything out of this guy except for that one game where I believe it was White who was injured against the Saints, where Tucker just went bananas. And then they said, we're going to have a 3-headed monster, and didn't use him. So I do think that if something happens to Irving, it's easy 70% snap share for this guy. So I do think it's a good pick, but I don't think we need to spend too much time discussing Rachaad White, because most people cannot stand that guy.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.